So the panel discussions will take place as the Christopher will suggest and talk about it, and he will invite all the panelists. But the panel is followed by a Global HR Excellence Award, and we'll have all the Global HR Excellence Award taking place at the same place. So I guess if there is any questions or any queries, it's going to be here, right here. So Christopher, over to you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would like to invite the panelists up to the stage. Representative from Oman, Abdul. Representative from India, Rahul. Another representative from India, Prasanta. Representative from Indonesia, Bambang. Representative from South Africa, Avril. And a representative from Zimbabwe, Emmanuel. So this is who will be talking with us about building a caring culture. And how ironic that we are HR professionals in 2020 talking about a caring culture. I remember when I first joined the first human resources team back in 2004, someone asked me, "What is it that you do?" And I said, "Human resources." And the response was, neither human nor resourceful. At any rate, this esteemed panel of colleagues here are going to share with us some ideas on what we can do to help build a culture of caring in our organizations. Panel, please be seated. So my first question for the panel, I'll ask each person to answer for us. The question is, what is one strategy that you have implemented in your company to create a caring culture that can inspire the rest of us to do the same in our companies? So one strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take with you 7 different ideas on what you can do back in your companies to create a caring culture. So, Abdul, would you like to start us off?
Good afternoon all. Thank you very much for coming here. It's a pleasure to be in the panel. The answer to your question is, in my organization, what we introduced was a flexible way of working. We wanted all our employees to feel that they belong to the company without being tied up with rules and regulations, which are normally strict. What we have introduced is a flexi timing and also a relaxed atmosphere where employees can come in at work after doing the necessary, let's say, transportation for their children to schools or their spouses to school. So there's no like a limit where you have to come to work 7:30 plus minus 15 minutes. It was not like that. We introduced a flexi timing where 7:30 to 9 you can come in and do your 8 hours and go home. Also, second one we did is not necessarily to follow the HR manual in terms of a sickness. We say that the relationship between you and your line manager is good enough for human resources to understand the situation when you're sick. Because in the book, the HR manual says you get sick, you need to pursue a sick note. But we kind of waived that and said that is between you and your line manager. You don't have to get us a sick note if you are absent a day or two.
So it sounds like human resources, who was once responsible for creating all the rules, can help us build a caring culture by breaking some rules.
That's right.
Great.
Okay, so this is a difficult question, and we have attempted several initiatives. One of the things that we have done over the last 1 year or so is how do we delayer the organization? How do we make it less hierarchical? How do we make it a lot more networked? And this is to have communication flow a lot easier, to enhance conversations, dialogue, discussions between associates. And I think it's a very difficult task when it comes to the ground, and when we ask the middle layers to kind of not follow strict hierarchy for everything that they do, and I think it's a difficult attempt, and we are succeeding to a certain extent. There is always junior most layer, middle layer, senior layer, and I think we are kind of doing away with those scenarios, and the initial signs are encouraging, and I think this is one of the things that we are trying to do to change a culture which is a lot more inclusive, which respects each and everyone, and where communication flow is a lot easier than what it is today.
When I worked for an oil company based out of Assam in the extreme northeast, there's been challenging times to the industry per se, with the electric cars coming in a big way and the times to come. The energy sector per se, the hydrocarbon energy sector is facing a big threat. At the same time, the company has evolved innovative strategies to take care of its employees. And today, by the way, 50% of your people on the rolls, they're all millennials, the new generation youngsters who have joined the organization. So the company, as a part of its vision statement, has been insisting on nurturing initiatives. There has been a very beautiful, well-drafted, well-structured reward and recognition scheme in the company, and which possibly has been one reason where attrition rate has been extremely low in compared to our peers working in this sector. And the company had also evolved certain very innovative ways of indulging the youngsters, especially primarily the millennials, through a growth strategy, through a structured programs, plans, outbound programs. And this has definitely given us a new insight into our whole process. Thank you.
Okay, so let me introduce you to one of my colleagues here that also taking care about the caring cultures. So I believe that each of the country have social security programs, and we also have one fellow from Indonesia, Pak Noval. Mr. Noval, can you stand up, please? So he's in charge for the HR director for the social security program, and I think that's the caring culture that legally the government have, and also we have to promote the caring culture that is done by the government, but at the same time, I believe that all of us has the same tools, or maybe different to one another. The challenge that we have is how that we execute the programs. Like when you have the first employee coming to your office, you ask them to introduce each other. I want to practice it. Maybe this is the first session that you have. How that you introduce to each other. Let's do it in 1 minute. You introduce yourself to each other and maybe giving your name cards. What else that you can do? Come on, HR. Thank you. Usually it's pretty hard to start, but it's also pretty hard to stop. Yeah, so building the ecosystem and having the execution that it's not only a ritual, but it's also a patience within us. So usually in the first orientation program, HR will be the first persons, or the manager will be the first persons. That impressions, I will say that's a caring culture for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, HR practitioners. My name is Emmanuel. I'm from Zimbabwe. Okay, in helping the organization to have a caring culture, I would like to specifically speak in my organization. We have what we call open door policies. By open door policies as HR practitioners, every employee should be allowed in your office. You are an HR practitioner, you are a human resource manager, at the same time, you are a being, meaning to say that Ubuntuism should be practiced in each and every organization. Your door should be open to everyone. The moment you open your doors to everyone is the moment the employees will feel comfortable in telling you their issues. You don't have to be a lion HR, you have to be a caring HR. More so, I would like to say, as an HR practitioner, relationship management is something that is critical. You can't be an HR practitioner if you are not well related with your employees. What do we mean when we say relationship management? You are an HR for people who spend 5 to 8 hours at workplaces. So I would encourage HR practitioners to know their employees deeper, not just knowing by titles or responsibilities, but knowing deeper what are the challenges that your employees are facing. Is there anything that you can do to help so-and-so employee? So in short, you have to be someone who is able to manage the work-life issues of your employees, because as far as employees are working for you, they also have life issues that they are facing. By so doing, you'll be in a position to create a caring culture in an organization. Thank you.
Thank you. My next question is for Avril. Avril, what does a caring culture look like? In other words, how do we know when we have a caring culture? And a follow-up question to that is, what role does HR play in creating a caring culture?
Okay, thank you, Chris. My name is Avril, and I'm from South Africa, a neighbor to Emmanuel here from Zimbabwe. A caring culture for me has 4 key elements. The first one being that one needs to be able to communicate very clearly. The second being that you need to engage and empower, those that are around you, and particularly those that report to you. You also need to go off the script, really showing more empathy and taking action, on empathizing, and then focusing on actual relationships. Now, for me, this one is a real important one, because every leader and every person in a company has the responsibility of making that a caring culture. And with everyone having the responsibility of making that a caring culture, we do that simply by making sure that we get to know each and every person around us. What exactly is it that makes that person tick? How do we get to understand their personal circumstances? And how is it that we will then respond to those circumstances? Now, HR also has a real pivotal role to play in this, because within the HR strategy, everything that we do actually does show that we care. From the reward and recognition programs that we put together, from the pension fund schemes that we are running, or provident fund schemes that we run in our companies. This is a way that we actually do show our people in our companies that we do care.
Great, thank you very much. So the good news for all of us in this room as HR professionals is that we have a role to play, a very critical role to play. The bad news is that it requires the participation of everyone, which, as we all know, can be quite challenging. So creating a caring culture is not a spectator sport. We can't sit back and expect other people to play it. Everyone has to contribute. Bam Bang, you talked to us a little bit about a strategy that you've employed at your company to create a caring workplace. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you implemented that strategy?
Thank you. So when we are talking about strategy, usually we are talking about tools, technical things, and usually when we talk about change management, when we have the new ERP or new HRIS or new learning system or new employee orientation program, we tend to talk about the tools itself. But rarely we are talking about who is doing what and why that they are doing there. So back to my previous session that we talk about new employee orientation program. Usually people do that because he is the one or she is the one who is having that role to introduce the company to the new employee. But is he or he doing that technically right, or is he or she doing that because he's caring about the employee, about the new employee will get more empathy or knowing the company more, because it's not just a ritual, it's not just using the technology, but it's about how that I care for you, so I help you to succeed in this workplace and to know more about the organization and the workplace. So I think it's not only about the tools, it's not only about the strategy, but how that we execute that with the people that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Emmanuel, can you tell us why is a caring culture important to attracting and retaining talent?
Oh, thank you. Creating a caring culture is very important and critical in attracting and retaining talent. The reason being that many employees who resign from your organizations, most of them, they don't resign because of maybe poor salary or whatsoever, but they resign because of bad employers. What do we mean when we say bad employers? It will be a company where there is a poor culture, a company that is a toxic company. As I'm speaking right now, there are some of you who are in a verge of putting a resignation. The reason being that the culture in that organization is not welcoming. So the only way in which we can create a brand in our organization that will go far as attracting employees to apply to your organization, as well as retaining those that are there in the organization, is creating a caring culture. Let me say this again. Many times, HR practitioners, they just work. They really don't know that it's their responsibility to create a caring culture. And it's a system as an organization. You have to span from the HR department to other departments. You can't create a caring culture as an HR practitioner if you don't know yourself, if you are not caring yourself. In the morning, we learn that you start from within, going outwards. So if we create a caring culture for our organization, definitely we will become blue ocean organization. We become organizations where one can wish to work for. Some companies, if I hear, I don't know your company, there are some companies that when people say there is a job maybe vacant, they won't apply. It's not because there is poor salary, but there is a toxic culture. The moment you create a good culture for your organization, you will be branding your company. The moment you brand your company, you are placing your company in a global space. At the end of the day, it becomes a very good company where employees feel happy when they are working for that company. At the end of the day as well, no employee wants to be categorized with a company that is a toxic environment. Every employee wants to be categorized with a good company that has a caring culture.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to turn the question over to you. The theme of this conference is building happiness at workplace. How much happiness have you built today? I can't hear you. How much happiness have you built today? What I would like you to do is spend a moment and talk with someone next to you and answer the question, what role does happiness play in a caring culture? What role does happiness play in a caring culture? So spend a couple of minutes just talking with a neighbor. Who has such a great answer to that question that you just absolutely must share it with everybody else? Do I have a volunteer? We've got all this expertise in the room. Surely somebody knows the role that happiness plays in creating a caring culture. Sir, if you could tell us your name and where you're from.
My name is Arinjoy Barua. I work in Oil India Limited in Assam, in a place called Duliajan.
Do you know Prasanta?
Yes.
Okay.
So my view is that happiness is the essence for every employee, every person per se, because unless and until a person is happy, even though he may be giving you the results, deep down he may have doubts, he may have certain ramifications which may affect him in the long run, which may affect him professionally as well as personally, and ultimately it's not going to pay dividends both him as well as to the company. So HR, the main focus of HR is to maintain the happiness of the employees so that they remain focused and there is a balance which they can maintain in their personal as well as professional lives. So that is my view.
Great. Thank you very much. Out of curiosity, how many of you in the audience have heard of a gentleman by the name of Benjamin Franklin? Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but the old adage is that Benjamin Franklin once said that beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. And after the meal, we'll have open bar, and we'll be able to talk about whether or not Benjamin Franklin knew what he was talking about in terms of happiness. Next question, Prasanta, following up from your colleague here. In an industry that is so affected by rapid change and disruption, the gas, oil, energy industry, how do you make sure that your organization is keeping up with the changes required to maintain its vitality, yet preserves the caring culture that's so important to its employees?
In fact, Christopher, the last 2 decades have witnessed unprecedented changes in the entire work environment today. The workplaces are fast changing. With the rapid induction of technology, there's a high rate of technological obsolescence happening. At the same time, in fact, let's go back to the historical facts. If you look at the industrial era, for instance, it was the art of management which has come to the center stage, where everything was doing fine. Then came the digital era, which calls for a very high degrees of innovation, not mere process improvements, experimentation, trying out with new ideas and new things. So the whole concept of a pyramidal structure is now gone. We look at flat organizations, we work at effective networking. And as a consequence, the role of leaders are changing very fast. We cannot accept and think leaders who really carry those supervisory and control kind of a mindset, but we expect them to be more innovative, more inspiring, who could motivate the team to go forward. I think these are the new cultures, new set of cultures that we have roped into the organization. And I'm sure, as times go, things will definitely prove to be very effective. At the same time, if you look at the flip side of it, today the role of managers in some of the jobs are becoming redundant. The routine kind of jobs are being taken over by artificial intelligence, machine learning, and kind of concepts. The routine kind of jobs could be managed by even your having a suitably designed app for that matter. So the managers have a lot of time, the leaders have a lot of time to concentrate, inspire, instill in the youngsters a sense of confidence and give them the right set of leadership. I think this is precisely what you're trying in times of the changing times. At the same time, looking at the macro level, what's happening globally, I think we are also trying to relook at the whole business portfolio of the organization, to invest more into renewables, to invest more into alternate sources of energy, hydrogen for cell, for instance, and the kind of new technologies. So a lot of effort has been put into R&D so that things could get a new dimension in times to come. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My next question is for you, Rahul. And that is, how do we as HR professionals go back to our companies and interact with our business leaders, many of whom care very much about the bottom line and are results oriented? How do we convince them of the importance of creating a caring culture without compromising business results?
Great question, Chris, and my favorite one, I guess. I think we should go to the business leaders like me and say, hey, you know what? Culture eats a strategy for breakfast, right? So, and that's true, actually. And we are a company with 60,000 people across the globe, and we took this radical step. And it was taken by now our Chief Transformation Officer, who was actually our HR director earlier. And what he introduced was, and which we think is so very useful to our business, is he removed this yearly performance appraisal system, right? So we don't have any performance system anymore. And for last 2 years, our productivity, our numbers, our stock price included, it's shooting up. We are doing much more work with less number of people. And that happens because what we had introduced is a culture wherein every team leader, every manager checks in, have a conversation with the, call it direct reports, every week. Every week, every individual fills in what he likes doing, what he doesn't like doing, what help he needs. And it becomes a kind of a coaching exercise. Now you replicate this weekly into quarterly and into a yearly metric. And what you get at the end of it is immense knowledge, insights about how the engagement is, how the performance is. And over a period of time, what we have realized, and it's only been 2 years, and what we have realized is that this culture of rating individual's performance on a parameter of 1 to 5 is very dehumanizing, right? Based on the recency impact, based on that week's performance, we rate individuals' entire year's performance either 2, 3, 4, and give appropriate merit increase. I think this is, and then we force fit them into some kind of a bell curve and stuff like that. I think we have done away with that, and this has really done well for us at least.
Great, thank you very much. Bam Bang, what would you add to that?
Yeah. So I just want to add simple things. So how many of you have a WhatsApp group with your team? How many of you realize there's another WhatsApp group without you, but it's all of your team? So what they talk about? Is it about the business result or it's about you? So that's just a manifestation of the caring culture. So how many of you or how many of us call our colleagues because of the business result doesn't achieve, or there's problems? And the other hand, how many of us have called because there's a success, there's a contribution, or there's achievement? So that kind of habit, I think, move us a bit to the caring cultures when we are talking about the business results. So it's not only talking about the results, but how that you achieve it, any problems, or if there's any achievement, do you appreciate that as a caring culture? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My next question I'll open up to the entire panel. let's say that we want to begin the journey of creating a caring culture, and we're just now making the first steps. What might be the first thing that you would encourage us to go back to our companies and do to introduce the importance of a caring culture?
Yes, from my perspective, I think the first step is for us here, HR leaders, to start working with our colleagues, our leaders, and the CEO to convince them of what we are about to do, and then put it in the paper, and then start asking the fellow leaders to go and discuss in their departments, in their areas, in their countries where they operate, in order to ensure that whatever we are going to do is being discussed at all levels in the organization, or also we get the input right from the bottom layer to the top layer. So there is a sense of belonging that this particular decision was made by me. So each employee said, yes, I contributed to this procedure or direction or guidelines or strategy.
Thank you.
I would say we'll double down on what I call as listen and learn, right? Listen to the colleagues, learn from them, understand their challenges, listen and learn their stories, contribute to them. And I think everyone should be spending lot more time than what they are today in just listening and learning from each other.
Thank you.
I supplement Rahul's point of view. It has to be a top-down approach. The caring culture has to come down right from the top to the bottom, has to percolate it down. At the same time, there has to be a proper feedback mechanism where possibly you get a right set of inputs to take and do some mid-course corrections in the strategy. And this process, if it's begun well, can be a very structured mechanism by which you could take things to a better high. Thank you.
HR is the function that have all the data or the informations about the employees, about the family, and all of the related things. So I think that we can use that not only for the data itself, but you can use that as a story to tell. You can use that also as an base that you want to do something for the employees.
Thank you. If you want to start a new culture, I believe every culture you have to span from the vision of the organization. And as HR practitioners, we are in between. We represent the employees. We also represent the management. So we have to strike a balance where we have to know the vision of the company, at the same time cascading that vision into a caring culture to the employees. At the end of the day, all of us will benefit. We don't want a situation where you want to create a caring culture and you face resistance, because resistance is also there in that culture. So for you not to face resistance, you have to be a go-between as an HR practitioner for the vision of the company, as well as giving a listening eye to those who are on the shop floor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. A caring culture links very strongly to the employee experience. So ultimately, as leaders, we need to focus on our relationships. And we go back to the very basics. And that is, we show empathy and we show care, for those that we interact and engage with. And that is something that I believe we can take back through our visions to our companies when we face our staff and our leaders. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So I would offer that the irony here is we're talking about a caring culture, but can cultures really care? Or is it the people within the culture who must care? In order for us to create cultures in our workplaces where people feel as though they're cared about, it's important that our managers exhibit certain characteristics and qualities. I'm sure many of you work with people who you think embody those characteristics and qualities. If the organization could behave like that person, it would be a very caring culture. And probably you work with managers or support managers who are on the opposite end of the spectrum. Caring does not come naturally for them. So my next question for the panel is, what do you think is the most important quality or characteristic, attribute of a manager in demonstrating to the employees who report to them that they care? What is the most important?
I think, Chris, it's about building trust, right? And trust is not something that we can just pick up from a book and say, hey, I trust you. I think trust is a very deep subject, right? It means communicating constantly. It means listening. It means having faith and belief, right? And all these things have to be demonstrated. And I think this is what managers have to do to build that caring culture.
I think to that, the emotional connect is very important, Andrews. I think if you have a right set of connect, a right set of attitudes, you can definitely really persuade them, you can take them with you, and there'll be this great sense of belongingness and attachment. So I personally feel the emotional connect would be the most important thing to my mind.
Yeah, I think there are two things, Chris. So the first one is get to know more about your team, because how that you can care about them if you don't know about them. And then the second one is about how that you can believe in them, so trust them for what that you have given the role for them. And I think it needs a positive mindset and a growth mindset for all the leaders to trust and to know more about the team and the employees. Thank you.
I stand with relationship management. You cannot be a good HR if you don't know how to relate with your co-workers. All what we're talking about caring culture spans from how you relate with your employees. If you're in a position to relate well, automatically a caring culture will be created. As I said earlier, no employee runs away from an organization because of salary, yes, but another reason why people resign is because we are not caring as HR. How then can we create a caring culture when we are not caring as HR practitioners? Let's know how to relate with our employees. Let's empower them. Let's delegate them. Let's give them an ear. At the end of the day, servant leadership is also critical to HR practitioners.
Okay, Chris, it's not so easy to bring it down to one point. However, for me, it's about alignment of a leader, of their thoughts, their words, and their actions. Because in that way, you build integrity. And not only do you do that, but you bring in a belief system so that you can inspire people and really show that you care. So thanks.
Thank you. Of course, culture is shaped by the behaviors that are rewarded and punished in an organization. And what I would ask you as HR professionals is, are you rewarding the right behaviors to help build happiness in the workplace? And my call to action to you is to not just go back and do your part, but to engage every single supervisor and manager to do their part. If they're not happy in the workplace, their employees will not be happy in the workplace. So I encourage you to consider, how do we start with managers? How do we get them to build happiness at the workplace? And how do we get them to evangelize that to the employees whom are entrusted to their care? So with that, I would like to thank the panel for sharing their wisdom with us today, and I would like to thank all of you for your time and attention. Enjoy the rest of the Congress.